Big day for US Fan TV, and half of it was very good, and the other half of it was very predictable.
Was everything everything that coming into it is going to happen. You just hope that you can, I don't know, get past it, overcome it, and then kind of rub it in their face because they tried it and still didn't get away with it.
Yeah, I'm at the
But
point.
instead, it went exactly as Concacaf fucking set it up to.
It's, you know what, and we're going to talk about the women in a bit because that's a lot more fun. But
right now we have to get through the anger.
Yeah, and U.S. Soccer did an amazing job. We shit on U.S. Soccer a lot, but they did an amazing job with their watch party in Chicago. But first, we need to deal with this. You know what? This men's Gold Cup final. I shouldn't say men's because CONCACAF doesn't even bother to have a female Gold Cup, so it's just the Gold Cup final for now. I texted you at what, the 55th or 60th minute, and so I said we've seen this game before.
Yeah,
we've seen this game before. And I'm at the point where, like, for a long time in my U.S. fandom, I would direct my anger at Mexico because of the shithousery, the choking of a player in front of the ref, and the elbows and the dirty play, and then the second you go up, the diving starts, the falling on the ground starts like crazy. I don't blame them. Like
they're like a spoiled
it's rewarded
child.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
CONCACAF is the parent that doesn't parent their child.
Yeah, they've been trained to do this, and they're allowed to do this, and they're rewarded for doing this. So why shouldn't they? This is why I want us to go stomp on people. Like the discussion we were having before, before we went live to you guys or whatever, was I want us to go stomp on people's hands when they're laying on the ground.
Hockey enforcer style.
I see you there. I kicked you right in the ear. Oh, what a shame. Because fuck it. I know we'll get punished for it. I understand that. I know how this works, believe it or not. But before and TJ's gonna show up in a minute and be like, "Oh, Chris talking about the refs." But when
it's not
texting, TJ agrees with me. So
yeah, it's in these cases, it's a, you know what, I would have loved to have won, and refs aside, we're more at fault for losing than anybody else. I mean, the refs didn't make Josie miss.
That's very true. My issue is, yes, Josie missed. It was unlucky on Arreola's shot when he megged Ochoa. That went wide, but that was a very, very tough angle to shoot from, and he didn't have a lot of space to do it. So whatever. But anyway, yes, we should have scored. We should have been ahead in the first half.
That perhaps changes the game.
Numerous chances, and that changes some things. That said, I'm sorry, they had 3 straight red cards that went not only uncalled, but the only consequence was that we got a talking to. Well, that absolutely changes the game. Like, you can't say, well, but if you'd scored, it would have been 1-1. No, it wouldn't have, because if we'd scored and they made those, and the referee made the proper calls, they shouldn't have had guys on the field to score at all. They should have been sitting back and trying to defend with 10 guys in the box and just hoping for a rare shot.
You know what?
At a counterattack. And maybe that happens, but it's a hell of a lot less likely when you've only got 8 or 9 guys on the field, which is what they should have had.
Right, and if the same things happened in anywhere, most other places in the world, they would be dealt with. They wouldn't be allowed to fester. This is not just this game, though, with CONCACAF. This has been allowed to go on and on and on and on and on for a long time. And if we said this when, Pulisic was at Borussia Dortmund, but if you're now Chelsea Football Club, do you really want him coming to play over here in these games when you know there's a chance that anything can happen to him and it won't be dealt with?
Somebody takes a shot at his head.
Yeah.
And the referee just, I don't give a shit. No big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. That was red number 1.
And it sounds like it sounds like sour grapes, but fuck it. It's
not sour grapes. Like what pisses me off about this, and this is why I have this argument. I have it with TJ all the time, even though half the time he agrees with me that the call was bad. But like that I'm the whatever, the guy who believes in a conspiracy or something here. It's not that. It's that fine, if I have to play that role, whatever, I will. But my real point is that it's not that the referee makes the outcome. It's that the referee maneuvers the game by not making by intentionally rewarding bad behavior or intentionally supporting one team over another. And that was absolutely the case today. There's three obvious calls in the straight reds, but there was also him. What you now walk players off to the sideline for no reason, and then you shake their hands before they go off, like when Pizarro left the game. I'm sorry, this shit doesn't happen in other places. This shit doesn't happen for the U.S. ever. So you can't tell me that, oh, well, you're just saying this because it's your team. No, I'm saying this because it never happens for one team, but it always happens for the other team. That's not just blind luck. And that shit has to be solved, because how can you be a responsible conference? How can you be a stand-up place? Grant, whatever, we're not.
This is the place where Josie Altidore got a titty twister a couple years ago. Like it's
I mean, back to the point of talking about Josie, but like back to the point of Pulisic getting hurt for something stupid. Josie got tackled, fell down. Okay, then who was it? Alvarez, I don't remember, jumped on him with both knees in his back. Second straight red. And then he sat on him, and the referee still did nothing. So what happens? McKennie comes up and tries to stick up for him. Guadardo grabs him by the throat in front of the referee, and who gets talked to? McKennie. Like, you can't tell me this shit isn't rigged. This is a systematic manipulation of the game, and that does change the outcome. Because sure, great, Josie fucked up on his one shot. Okay, maybe he has 10 more shots if the game's called properly. Maybe Mexico never gets a shot if the game's called properly.
Maybe.
These are all things that, what my point is that these are much more likely outcomes if, say, the game's called properly. Because we can go, if Josie makes that shot, it's 1-1. Well, okay, by what happened in the rest of the game, sure. But if the referee calls the game properly, the rest of the game changes too. And that's where you are having a major effect on the game. And it's one thing if it was just one straight red, but when it's second, third, I'm sorry, this is a blatant.
You know what though? I'll say this:
adaptation of the game based on referee behavior, referee decision, or not decision.
Two things. One, something happened at halftime, because the Mexicans were completely in control of the game, and I don't think that had anything to do with the refs. They just
Tata outcoached Berhalter in the second half.
It was a completely different game, and that was the point where you knew the goal was coming for them.
Yeah.
And
if nothing else, there would have been a penalty. Yeah.
We've dealt with this before on this show, but it's almost like Concacaf. Yes, the refs are shitty, but they're consistently shitty. You know what they're going to allow. Are we idiots for not
doing it too?
Dempsey would do it sometimes. Like we had some guys who would dive a little bit.
Honestly, I was kind of hoping
play a little dirty, and
Jermaine was there, because
Jermaine would do it.
Jermaine would have gone out to.
Are we dumb? Are we dumb for not?
Bit.
It's almost naive. Yeah.
I mean, it's naivete that, and I mean, granted, to some extent, it is. Maybe it's not naivete, because it is certain, because we've watched it. Anytime we start to do something like this, we get the calls. The calls go against us. They just don't happen to any of the other teams we play. Whatever. Yes, it's stupid that we don't do it. We should be doing it too. There were numerous times where like Areola and Pulisic were in the box and trying to get a shot. I was like, just dive, just go down.
Even at the end of the game. Yeah. I'm like, why aren't you dropping to the ground? Like, from the Fire, Georgi Mihalovich's dad is a local youth coach here in Chicago, and he actively teaches his children to dive, even at like 6 and 7. A lot of the Hispanic teams do. We've just got this like ingrained, I don't know what the right word is, but belief that we're above that or something. And you know what? It's I don't like it.
We weren't breaking legs. What is it? Nick and A69. No, Tim Ream was bodying up on players, but I'm sorry, he wasn't touching their ankles or knees, and really his chest was hitting their back. A couple times I will say, okay, he ran into him a little forcefully, so sure, that was a foul. Most of them were not.
Yeah, noble is the word, anonymity, and I don't.
Most of them were I guess pure fouls, sure. But in terms of what's a real foul, Areola, I guess, had that one as the ball was going out of bounds. I don't remember who he tackled. He was awfully close to touching the ball. So that one I don't think is dirty either. There really wasn't dirty play in the first half, aside from the things we commented on. I know there's the talk about Josie should have gotten a red.
I didn't see what I saw that on Twitter. I didn't see what he was talking about, so I don't know.
It's a slide tackle from behind. It's still, I still don't believe there's enough contact there for the kind of for a straight red. I was having this conversation, I don't know, with somebody on Twitter earlier. I don't remember, but I said, I can overlook certain things in the game that are just part of play. That, sometimes you're going for the ball, you're coming from behind or from the side anyway, and hey, you end up tangled a little bit more. I understand when the referee may go yellow, when sure it might have looked a little bad, and maybe it could have gone red. The 3 reds that I'm talking about were simply meant to hurt someone. That's it.
The one was surprising by Guardado, because he's a dude who I kind of respect.
I actually like Guardado. Yeah. I mean, we were having this conversation earlier. I don't hate the players on this team like I used to hate most of them, but he is one that, like, I don't really fault the guy. He is genuinely a good player. I think he's kind of on the downslope now, but he's the one that when people are like, oh, who's the best player in Concacaf, he was the only one that I was like, yeah, I didn't feel anybody on Mexico was like so supreme that it was like, oh yeah, no, they're stand out there whenever you hear like, oh, they're heads and shoulders better than the U.S. I didn't feel they were. Guardado was the only one that I was like, yeah, I could see where if people are making a call for somebody who might be the best player, even when like Bradley was at his best and stuff, I felt like Guardado was right up there too.
I mean, Bradley was getting crapped on tonight on Twitter, and the one thing I'll say in his defense though is that in this setup, it looked like he had a gigantic amount of space to cover, and he was getting really tired. Yeah, he's slower, and
he's too old now.
Which is Greg, like that's something he's got to contend with. But somebody,
where do you go, Will Trapp?
A long time ago, somebody
have the same problem except he's younger,
right? Except he's worse.
And that.
There is that guy who wasn't.
Oh my God,
his name's Tyler Adams. He's going to be the one that'll take that spot eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is he? Or is he going to play right back?
Well, yeah.
Or whatever.
Fair question. Yeah.
Maybe Bradley can play right back. Who knows?
Bradley could play center back, maybe. But somebody said a long time ago, and I don't remember who it was, that we need to call out Greg for his subs. I didn't really understand any of them.
I didn't necessarily.
But I couldn't come up with a better sub myself.
Yeah, I didn't feel like there was a strong enough bench that it mattered.
That's the thing.
It was like,
I had no.
Who's going
I'm
next?
like, I mean, it's not like when when Jill Ellis was making a sub, we'd be like, "What the hell?" No, in this case, I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what I would have done," so I really can't criticize.
I could see. I kind of expected Tyler Boyd. Well, one, I really expected Tyler Boyd to start, but I guess I understand what. I understand what I think Berhalter was going for, and that was that Boyd would come inside, whereas Morris can stay outside and just run. So I guess I get that one, and I guess I get that's why I say he didn't send him in, maybe for Morris like in the 65th minute or something, was that it was still sticking to that game plan. But beyond, Tyler Boyd, like who else is on the bench that you absolutely want in there? Like, do you want Roldan in? I've not seen a lot lately that makes me say yes.
For everyone saying that we shouldn't move Josie out of right back, not Josie, DeAndre Yedlin, I completely agree with you. I just think Greg might do it based on, I don't know what you do with DeAndre then. Maybe flip him to the other side or something. I don't know.
That's my only guess, because if nothing else, especially when you're going to depend on wing play, his speed is a big fucking benefit. And I don't. How many other Premier League defenders do we have, or like of that level?
Right.
It's not like we got such a big pool here that we can just pick and choose. But whatever.
What was everyone's read on the goal? Which Mexico's goal was pretty. The Jonathan Dos Santos go off the back heel. Was that on McKinney? All that space that was given up there? I'd have to go back and watch it again, but it felt initially like that was maybe his run to cover.
It would be kind of by position, but I don't remember. I looked down at my phone because it like went off. I don't know, either one of you guys had texted me or somebody had sent me something on Twitter. So I had looked down at that and I was looking up just to see the shot. So I don't remember what happened before that.
There was an untracked run by Jonathan Dos Santos that led to that. So it seemed like, but maybe I'm wrong the way they were set up. So
and I think they were saying McKinney. Oh, it seemed like again that was part of the canyon of space. Bradley seemed like he was trying to cover the entire night.
Yeah, without Jermaine there to roam it with him. Like it was
but
too
Jermaine,
much for Bradley.
Jermaine at that point would have been playing forward. So
it's true.
I've already said if Jermaine would have gone out and put the hurt on some people at the end, I would have been okay with him playing.
Now this I agree with. Now, did we already talk about the referee conspiracy theory? Did I miss that part, Pat?
It's not a conspiracy.
I mean, that was off the bat.
It's not that I'm saying that.
TJ, even you as a ref have to admit the refereeing was poor.
Yeah,
the ref wasn't taking control of anything yet again.
TJ will try and like make this into I'm making shit up here. We text during the games, and he's in agreement on the shitty call.
He's like Stephen A. Smith, though. He plays a role on this show.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows his role.
They said something during the game that this referee doesn't give cards. They said he does, and he didn't.
He does give handshakes when you leave the game, apparently.
Apparently, but you, as a player, if you don't know that going in, that's on your coaching staff for not.
That is what I said to Chris. Yeah. That's what I said to Chris. If you don't like it, not just
this ref, you're going to get away with murder. You start murdering. I mean, in that case,
and we didn't, and they did, and credit to them. You know, like it's.
And I think it was in the second half. I heard, and he fell like a ton of bricks, and I was waiting for him just to. When you know that's coming, and again, get your if they're gonna flop and roll and dive and play dead after they score the goal, then get your pound of flesh worth out of it. At least destroy them in the process.
That's my point.
Instead of trying to take the ball, just destroy them. And I agree. Jermaine Jones would have been great tonight because he would have had without the referee giving cards. Jermaine Jones would have been in heaven tonight.
To me, the only plus tonight was Christian Pulisic's really, really good. Like when he starts, I mean, he's head and shoulders, and he wasn't enough for us tonight to win, but. He's head and shoulders above anybody else we've got or they've got. I include their full if they had El Chucky or Chicharito there.
But is this the fact that he's healthy? Chicharito. I mean, is this a healthy Christian Pulisic that we finally saw?
Health. I think some of it is maybe it's that he's been given the free reign to do.
And that was going to be my next question. Is Berhalter utilizing him better than? Well, Sarakin didn't do a damn thing, but then what's his name? Bruce Arena or Jurgen. I mean, did Berhalter just figure out how to use him better, or is he just taking that next step over the last?
No, he I think in this last month with Dortmund when he came back from the injury and he was getting regular time, he looked this way.
Yeah,
from the right, but he's on a different level now. And I think that's great. I'm really excited to see what he does for Chelsea. Still hurts me.
We need Tyler Adams in the lineup. I think. We need McKennie. McKennie has a bit of Jermaine in him. Like, you know, he's not always positionally sound, but. You know, he's willing to go anywhere. He's involved in everything, and he could have a moment of brilliance. I think if he continues to evolve, and truly a role is selected for him in this lineup, I think that's a good thing for both of them. I think it helps take some of the pressure off Pulisic, because one of the problems that I was seeing and that it's kind of been all along is that if you can isolate Pulisic, eventually he runs out of room, or they're triple teaming him.
Yeah.
In many instances, and that's sure to open up for other guys, but he has to be able to find those other guys. And if there's nobody of quality, of that level of quality, to either take some of that, pull that defender with them, or for years it was nice when we had Donovan, Dempsey, and Bradley, because you had Bradley who could like make some of the deep passes, Donovan who could dribble around or make runs and things, and then Deuce who could put in a shot or do some of the final moves in the box. It helped open things up for each of them because they had the other ones there to draw some of that pressure.
Maybe if we had a Ginger who could do that.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't added to the team.
I'm sorry. If we didn't take home the fucking trophy, now I'm back again. Actually, that's a good one to bring up. Why wasn't Sargent here?
Yeah, it's.
If we weren't going to do it anyway, what fucking difference does it make?
Mexico can let, or any decent team can let Pulisic just do his thing to nowhere. And if nobody of quality is going to show for the ball or get into space to make themselves effective where he can see them, it's not gonna matter. So yeah, we're not. I would say Mexico is definitely not the best Mexico team I've ever seen, and I know they were missing some of their best players. We were closer to our full A team than they were, and we are still not as exciting as the new crop of players is for us. We are still not anywhere near Donovan, Dempsey, Bradley at his best, Tim Howard, like that. Nowhere near.
Yeah,
Pulisic may be better than all of them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
but as a team, we're not there.
Yeah.
But no Brooks, no Tyler Adams. That's quite a bit to be missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, certainly we were missing a few who you assume jump right into the starting 11. But we also gained Tyler Boyd, who we didn't know might be part of the starting 11, 2 months ago. But here we are. So yeah, this was much closer to our, say, World Cup qualifying starting 11 than Mexico was, and that's one of the reasons it is disappointing that.
I don't necessarily agree with that all the way. Like I said, healthy Tyler, I think Brooke should be back in if they don't assuming he wants us to play. And then the other one is, you don't have Weah, and I still think Sargent will, when the qualifying will be part of it.
I mean, hell, by the time of the next World Cup, you could even be talking about guys like Gio Reyna or something. And I know
Borussia Dortmund's Gio Reyna.
That's projecting far out, but he's shown a lot of promise in some small things so far. Mario has a good point that as bad as the U.S. has sucked lately, it's no wonder that we get outnumbered at stadiums.
I mean, Mexico's a special case, but
I was just gonna say that. Like I heard some people, or I saw some things on Twitter about like, oh, the women had a home game in Paris. Was it Paris or Lyon when we played France? I can't remember right now. But anyway, in France against France, but we men can't even have a home game.
You know what?
In Chicago, well,
it's nothing like Mexico.
Play there, yeah.
There's almost no country on earth that travels like them for the men's national team. They will own you in Russia. They will own you anywhere, and especially here because there are so many Mexicans who live here.
You're in Chicago. Well,
yeah.
More Mexicans live in Chicago than any place but Mexico City. There is a bit of an advantage there for them. So
it is also funny that
Los Angeles,
but
okay, whatever.
Think about if the Fire would just sign another Mexican star, like that's all they really had to do, and they would double their attendance instantly. Like it's just. They wouldn't fix anything systemically wrong with that team, but Mexicans turn out. Mexicans turn out. And I will say, this may be the time to segue. At today's watch party, I was at the watch party in Lincoln Park in Chicago for the Women's World Cup. There were a ton of people wearing green who I presume were going to tonight's game to cheer against the U.S., cheering for the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's
because they're bandwagon fans. Well, let's be honest. The Mexican women's team isn't that good.
True.
Like they're okay, but
half of their players are Americans.
Yeah. So yeah, they're going with the team that they can support for a win. My hope was, and things were starting to look just a few years ago, like we might start to win those bandwagon fans over to the men's side, but then we screwed up the World Cup, and then we spent a year trying to decide what the hell was going on, and now we're still trying to figure out sort of how to build a team. And when even fans like us are kind of like, if I don't make it, I'll survive. What does that say? Meanwhile, U.S. soccer just keeps pumping up the price.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you could I don't think you could handle this in a worse way if you were U.S. soccer.
Well, and just to even add on to that, the fact that it became a U.S.-Mexico final, on the 3rd of July, when I was at the Fire game, the guys who sit in front of me bought 2 of the $45 tickets in the upper bowl, and they said they sold them for $250. What were we looking at today? $350, $400 to get in.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe. I almost bought 2 for $45, and I'm like, nah, I feel like Mexico might crash out of this tournament, and I'll get them for cheaper. No, that was a dumb decision. Should have. I would have went, but when I saw the prices today, and the other thing is like there's in Columbus, when you're going to be with a lot of U.S. fans, it's one thing. But when at a normal U.S.-Mexico game, if you're not sitting with American Outlaws, and we've talked about on this show some of our issues we have with AO, if you're not sitting with American Outlaws, you're sitting with the Mexican fans. They're going to be everywhere. And, they might be awesome, but it's still not the experience I want to have. It's just being completely, I don't like going to road games really in any sport except for baseball, because nobody really gets all that work. If baseball's baseball,
because Americans are kind of lousy sports fans.
Yeah. But if I love Lambeau Field, and I've been there, but I've never been there for a Bears Packers game because I don't feel like hearing it. Like I don't like being outnumbered and having to potentially, depending on the situation, fight my way out. And that's the general experience, because for whatever reason, Mexicans love their national team, even when they're Mexicans who have lived in the U.S. for generations.
Alex says, no, it's not Alex. Somebody said, it was Alex, who said they're not bandwagon fans. Well, they are kind of bandwagon fans. Like that's why
any team that popular has bandwagon fans. Yeah,
the women's team from the U.S. as opposed to the women's team from Mexico. And there's a lot, and some don't,
but there's a lot that cheer for the U.S. men.
They could support for the U.S. men. You know? They're choosing the Mexican men because they feel like there's a better chance of winning something there. If the U.S. got better, we'll start swaying those fans this way again. For a while, that was kind of happening. It's definitely not now. Just like we're not really challenging Mexico on players who could play for either country.
I feel like we're almost back to the status quo, the prior to the Dempsey, Bradley, when it was on level. It was Mexico, for the most part in my lifetime, has always been a little bit better than the United. I felt like tonight was kind of back to that. They're a little bit better still. Not far, but a little bit.
Yeah, especially if they had everybody there, they would have.
Well, and even both sides of full speed, probably a similar result. I think they're about a 1-0, 2-1 better.
And we could beat them 3 out of 10 times right now.
Correct. And I don't think it's far from it. You during the course of the game, you texted both of us and said this reminded you of the game in Pasadena.
Yeah, absolutely.
The chances were there early. They were better for the most part in the first half. Not a lot, but a little bit. And then the second half,
the wave,
you're like,
the wave, and I
crap.
call it the Mexican wave if you want. It
Really?
starts in these games, and you feel it coming, and you're like, okay, we're doing a ton of defensive running. And when a team is doing a ton of defensive running, they get tired. Somebody makes a mistake, and the other team capitalizes. And that's what Mexico does do. They put you on your back heel. And in the past, we've been good enough to withstand it, counter it, and have Landon go score on the other end. Not now.
And you got Pulisic. You don't have anybody around him yet. Maybe Weah, maybe Sargent, Adams, McKinney. Somebody steps into that void. They weren't there tonight, though. But
yeah, New Jersey Ace says we need a striker who can finish. Alex agrees. Yes, like a clinical Clint Dempsey style finisher, just
ruthless. Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely.
I am not one to hate Josie like the hate he gets from some U.S. fans, but that was inexcusable today in a cup final. Like that's
you got to have that.
Oh my God.
You got to have that one. Absolutely.
Mario points out that as a Mexican American, he supports the U.S. Now, I didn't mean that like all Mexican Americans choose Mexico. We know some on our own who support the U.S. But the point is just like the majority.
It's almost like, and I used to get pissed about it.
Overwhelming majority, because it is when you go to these games, these aren't like Mexican nationals coming to watch the game.
No, usually not. No,
they're U.S.
And honestly, when you see Mexico playing in the World Cup, I'd venture to say a lot of the Mexican fans going are from the U.S. or lived here for a long time.
Right, because they always say the United States sells the most tickets.
Yeah, that's why it's that.
and it's why, and that's exactly it. They go to see the United States. They go to see Mexico. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some going to both games and wearing the different
You see
shirt.
it sometimes, yeah. And I used to get pissed about it, but now I'm just like, I realize it's a cultural thing. It's a sports team. It's not, if they had it to come down to it.
But it's a conspiracy. It is all a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy.
Well, I mean, it is. Should we talk about something good?
We can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some good news.
The women won the World Cup today.
Boom. 4 stars.
Oh my God. That was like I said earlier in the show, I have been critical of U.S. soccer in the past. They put on a hell of an event today in Chicago. It was really fun, really well done. And took the family. We met Clint Dempsey, by the way. I asked him the definitive question. I asked him, did you miss the penalty in Columbus on purpose? He said no. He said he thought he had it low to the right side. It kind of knuckled on him and he missed. But he said the soccer gods were smiling down on us that day and kept it dos a cero. So there you go.
Do you think if he did
from
miss it
Deuce's mouth?
Do you think he would have told you if he did?
No, but I am choosing to believe him. And you know what? I always wondered about him, if he would be cool. He was like the nicest. In fact, he spent so much time with each person that like 3/4 of the line didn't get to meet him, because he was only there for like 40 minutes. And I got there right away. So Alex and his family got there even earlier than me. So, we both get to meet him, but I think a lot of people were probably pissed because they got left out. But yeah, he was spending, like, he talked to my kids and shook their hands and asked them questions and stuff. He was really cool. So that was good. The game was even better. It was the first time that the U.S. women hadn't scored in the first 12 minutes of a game in this World Cup. So, we actually had a game on our hands against the Dutch, and the Dutch were pretty good, but you sort of like the Mexicans against us today, you kind of got the sense, especially in the second half, that the Dutch were just running and running and running and running and running, and it had to come, and it did.
And I mean, clearly the U.S. had a physical advantage over the Dutch.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you kind of say over every team this tournament, but kind of every team they play, period. But yeah.
What I noticed today,
I think I said something around half that I was predicting second half goals just because they couldn't match, like when it came to speed and just simple pace, they couldn't keep up. And I was predicting, in the second half, as they start to get tired, they're gonna fold.
What I didn't see today, which was which I saw against England and I saw against France specifically, when they got up, they didn't go into a shell. They didn't go to the 5 in the back. And that to me was always my biggest criticism of Ellis is when they go up 1-0, the other team, especially when they did in about 65th minute, give or take, when the first goal was,
which it was a penalty, by the way,
and it absolutely was. And but at that point, the other team, that every team has to defend so much against the U.S. women. France had to do it. England had to do it. And once they get up, you have to come out of that shell a little bit, and you have to start trying to chase the game a bit. And when Ellis when she would put them into the defensive shell, it allowed the game, and that's why those games stayed equal. Where today, they didn't do that, and it just seemed like it was over at that point. Like it seemed like they stepped on their throat versus the other, the other two games prior to it.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, they definitely well, as quickly as the goals came, like I mean, the second goal was 8 minutes, I think, after after the penalty. So yeah, it was they kept the pressure going, and
that was shitty defending, by the way. But credit to Rose Lavelle for taking all that space and eating it up and shooting. Yeah, that it was really well executed on her part. But my God, the amount of space she had there.
20 yards, basically. Yeah. It was like, is anybody going to come defend this? Because it wasn't like there were a lot of players that she could have like played the ball to, if that they could have been afraid of. She was just trying to draw them out. No, they just didn't do it.
That's back to the game opens up a bit when you have to start.
Yeah.
And those spaces become more times in the second when Heath have.
Are we losing TJ?
1,000 things and just dribble. There's probably off and on all.
I think we're losing you.
How many times did Tobin Heath drill?
Yeah, Tobin's really technical, but not the best finisher.
Tobin Heath, the female Alex Iwobi. Dribble. Don't do anything with it. Now you're in the box.
It's one thing I really have enjoyed is you know how there's some players who are really kind of buttoned up in their social media. They're like Alex Morgan. She's a brand in her.
She's got people handling it for her.
And so she kind of let in a little bit. But if you were following some other people, like Ashlyn Harris, the backup goalkeeper, she was putting fucking everything on Instagram. Like I was cracking up at the stuff that of other players that they were doing. I'm like, oh my God, there is no way Alex Morgan's social media team wants her twerking
in the locker room.
In the locker room and singing skeet 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 or whatever. But it made me laugh because I'm like, I'm like, yeah, I'm into this feed. This isn't cleaned up. This is real. I want to see what they're really doing right now. They went to like some kind of after party, and I'm like, screw the really famous players' feeds. I want the good stuff. I want Ashlyn Harris's feed. So props to you, Ashlyn Harris. I'm sure you watch the show. I'm sure you're still up. Your Instagram feed rocks.
There's a fair chance they're still up. They probably can't see to watch this at this point.
Alex Morgan knows the SWAT team, though.
Well, were you waiting for the next of I'm going to Disney World and I'm going to get thrown out of Epcot again?
Yeah, that's what I was
from Alex Morgan.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, it was. That was the point in the day where I was still looking and still happy before Mexico did us in. But I guess I'm still happy. I mean, if I had to choose one, and I've been a bigger fan of the men's team than the women's team, but I probably would have picked winning the World Cup over the Gold Cup because it's the Gold Cup, really. I mean, I cared more about beating Mexico than winning the Gold Cup, honestly. Yeah. I would have definitely taken winning the World Cup for the women, so I'm glad they did.
I guess the Gold Cup not being a complete disaster, I already felt like the progress I wanted to see was made, that I didn't care as much about the Mexico final.
Yeah, it almost seemed like they weren't as bad as I expected them to be. And I kind of see, we criticized Greg, and today I'm not sure about everything that was going on there, but I would like to stick with it a while longer, even though there's blatant nepotism going on. I'd like to stick with it and see what else he could do. I think he's a smart guy. So yeah,
as blatant as the nepotism is, he's a decent coach.
Yeah,
whether you like it or not, he's decent. And I don't know
potential nepotism with Michael Bradley, but he at one point was excellent. So
I don't feel like that was nepotism. That was
maybe initially getting the shot was, but dude was legit good.
Knock him. Still, like, yes, he has shortcomings to his game, which I guess you could say he's kind of always had. But the people who say like that he's just shit, I've seen some people say that he should never play for the U.S. again. Who are you going to put there? Because until Tyler Adams has locked down the position, who do we have to replace him? I'm sorry, it's not Will Trapp. Like I don't hate Will Trapp. I don't like trashing him, but like he's not Michael Bradley.
He's the most
pedestrian,
polarizing.
He's not bad. He's just not great.
You can have the same people watch him though.
Yeah.
And people will say he's a genius and he's excellent, and other people will say he's a donkey and he sucks. I know people who know him who think he sucks. So like I'm like, but have you seen him? Did you see the goal at Azteca, or have you seen some of the fucking 60-yard balls he's dropped onto people's feet that no one else on the team can see? Like but then you see a supercut of Bradley passing to absolutely no one on Twitter, and it makes you question everything you think you know. I don't know. I think he's pretty good, and I think he's his best days are behind him. But would I have chosen to have him out there? Yeah, I would have went with him. I don't think Greg got that wrong. So.
I'm on the record of saying I wish we were moving past him. He should be too old by the next World Cup, so I would like to see us moving on. But until we've found a way to replace him for sure, what are we going to do? I mean, I feel the same way about Josie. I'd like to see us moving on, but who do we have to take his place?
Yeah. It's that whole. We've talked about this before. There's a giant gap in our development, perhaps because we were only recruiting German Americans for a while. I don't know what it was, but there's a giant gap from the 30-year-old players to the 20-year-old players. Basically,
I kind of feel like there's going to be a big gap coming in the next 15 years because of this down cycle, because U.S. soccer shit the bed so badly with missing the World Cup, and then
as usual, Chris,
I don't think so.
And as usual, Chris, you're wrong.
Yeah,
Chris
I don't think so. Soccer is more popular than ever in this country. The quality of our coaching keeps getting better in this country. The fact that the men's national team lost, I don't think people are drawing the same inspiration from the men's national team as they used to, like in '94, where you went, I want to be like those guys. Now it's like, I want to be like
maybe
Mohamed Salah. It doesn't have to be.
It's not only that. There's a lot more.
You want more diving. You want players to be more like Salah, I guess.
But there's a lot more developmental options with the academy systems, with club play, that weren't there the generations that caused the gap that we have now. You think now that's just not there. There's enough opportunities, enough places you can play for the most part of quality, I guess. So
anonymity's the greatest.
We need to have him on. We need to have him on at some point. We really need to have anonymity on the show.
I would probably say Sargent is better than Zardes. I mean, I get I get the issue with him until he has a full starting position. That how do you justify sticking him in as a starter? That said, if we weren't going to win the damn tournament anyway, why wouldn't you have him out here? It's not going to hurt him. I mean, I guess it could have hurt him if he'd gotten hurt.
New Jersey Ace is saying Freddie Adu's only 30. Maybe. We're not sure about that. He could be 35.
Every time I hear his age, his reported age, I am stunned that he's that young. So
realistically, he's 35, maybe 40. Hard to say at this
And
point.
Robert, I'm talking more about old Michael Bradley, like 2009 Dos Acero game Michael Bradley or Roma Michael Bradley. I'm not necessarily talking about the things he's doing now. You see it every once in a while, but he's definitely more pedestrian than he used to be.
You just like him because he matches your haircut.
I do. You know, Men in Blazers have that joke, and you really do. When you are a bald, you really do feel sort of a kinship with other balds. I've told you guys I love Arjen Robben, and not just because he was brutally fouled in the box in 2014.
Then why don't you have a keeper jersey? I mean, granted, Zach Steffen. Do we have a bald keeper right now?
We don't. No. That may be part of the problem, to be fair.
I see. I'm
much hair.
As I'm reading through the chat, the question about Bobby Wood came up, and it's like he had his chance.
Jeez.
Oh my God, he had the chance.
He and Iceman are nowhere to be found right now.
Now is Iceman just not healthy? Is Iceman just not healthy, or
Iceman's never healthy? It seems
right.
So he's coming back to. I shouldn't say coming back. He's coming to MLS. I think.
Yeah.
Was the big rumor. So.
But the bottom line is Wood had enough opportunities. He did nothing with it.
He was good for us. Not as good in Germany. But he was good for a while in Germany too, so I don't know. Everybody wants to bring back Mix. That's going to solve it all. I say give him the 10 shirt.
I think we need to
before That's
right.
Hey, if Mix came back, we would have him on the show. I mean, I think we need Mix back. He already comments. We might as well have him back.
I actually do New Jersey Ace notes. I'd rather have Johansson than Zardes. I will say I would have taken him to come in for Josie tonight. Also, I don't know, is it just because he took that shot with his left foot, or because he's still kind of recovering from injury that Josie missed that? You know, maybe if you got somebody a little healthier,
probably both.
Would that have made a difference?
There's always Gideon Bilal, according to Sebastian.
I always liked Johansson as a link-up guy. He wasn't necessarily built for it, but his control of the ball was much sharper than Josie's.
Is he healthy yet?
He comes and goes. I think he was playing for Werder Bremen there at the end of the season, right?
I keep wondering, because it's like, why would you not give him another run out at some point if he's healthy and playing again?
Yeah.
You gave Bobby Wood enough chances. You give Bobby Wood enough chances. You keep giving Zardes and his feet of bricks. The only way Zardes, I think, scores goals is if it's off his face, off his nuts, or something along those lines.
Off his nuts.
Looks like Ashlyn Harris is going to bed now, you guys.
So that sounds like we're done.
I assume with Ali Krieger. And
are they together?
Yeah, they are. They are an item.
I was not aware of this. All right. I don't keep track of what the players' love lives.
Yes, you do.
Any of our players, I'm a little aware of.
You know when a player has a hot wife. Generally speaking,
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I know about Sidney LaRue and Dom Dwyer.
So yeah. So I think the insane bitches Instagram content's going to die for at least a few hours, but hopefully it's back tomorrow. I expect a lot more of it this week. If you guys don't follow her on Instagram, you really should. If you want to see players not following their advisor's advice on how to appear in front of cameras, it's amazing stuff. So yeah, boo that we lost the Gold Cup. Yes, the refs sucked, but so did our finishing. It's the same old CONCACAF though. Also, the same old women's national team. They have not lost a World Cup match since 2011. So that's pretty amazing.
Drop the mic on that.
Yeah. And the level of competition has gotten a lot better since 2011 too. So, and will only continue to.
I am not looking forward to the plan to expand the Women's World Cup, however. Like
It's got to come sometime.
I hate the idea of expanding the men's. I hate the idea of expanding the women's even worse. Oh my God.
And
more, I should say.
Chris,
worse.
I don't.
Oh,
the games aren't going to be pretty necessarily.
No. You're going to look at more probably 13-0 blowouts.
Possibly. But at the same time, you're going to get countries involved that might actually spend money then on their women's teams that didn't previously.
Oh,
I think that's the premise.
I understand the theory behind it, and I understand what FIFA is trying to do. But that said, oh my God, it's going to be like the opening round is going to be horrific.
It could be with the men's blows up when we have it too.
That's my point.
Yeah,
like the men's is going to suck too, but like,
but you might get
the women's, you know what? The women's already has amateur teams in it.
The first round of the NCAA tournament mostly sucks.
Yeah,
except for when you get an upset. So
true,
right? But at the same time, as much as those games suck, how much do those kids celebrate when they make the tournament?
Yeah,
I think
it'd be all right. Maybe it'd be all right. I don't know.
I mean, like the women from Thailand, yeah, they got their butts kicked. They still went home heroes out of that, even though. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to expand it, but it'll make the first round less exciting. Oh well, you know what? We'll survive.
And anybody, you should go look up Mason Crosby if you don't know who he is. Because living in Wisconsin, Chris gets recognized sometimes as Mason Crosby. Is this not true? Is it not true?
It's true. It's damn true.
It's happened a couple times.
A place kicker, indeed. I think we're at the end of this thing.
We're done.
Social media is out there. Chris has put some cool art on our Instagram. I'm actually genuinely impressed. I don't give him a lot of props, so go check that out. Follow us, subscribe. There's this idiot child my younger son watches on YouTube, and he always says, smash that subscribe button. So do that. But all of you guys already subscribed to this thing, I'm sure.
I doubt anonymity doesn't.
Is the minivan dad? Yes, he does. Because when we came back after 2 months of doing nothing, he was here. So I know some of you people have notifications on. TJ, is the minivan dad pod no longer with us?
It's a good question. I think it'll be back. Okay. Life just has to be, just got to get a little bit more free time in there. It's close.
Fair enough. I have a fly. What the hell is that? Do you have any final words, TJ?
You're done.
Chris?
I did kind of like the video that I put up for the women's team. I did it twice because I did it one time. I'd been trying to get audio on it, but I couldn't remember how to do that. So I put up a second time with audio. I still couldn't get it to line up right. So I'm still critical of it, but I think it turned out kind of cool, especially for something I was literally making up. I often, to give some insight here on things that show up on our Instagram feed, I often am making something and then while I'm watching the game, come up with a new idea and then scrap the whole thing I was working on before. So I had this idea for something I was going to put up after the game, and then literally in the 89th minute started putting together this video for 4 stars. So check it out. I think it turned out all right.
It's amazing.
And with that,
that's right, anonymity. Ask him. Because I got 2.
I do not have an
Emmy. My final word is great job to the U.S. women and great job to U.S. soccer for putting on a really fun party in Chicago. And
somebody could submit.
Thanks, Deuce, for the photo.
Video I posted of the U.S. England game a few months ago for an Emmy.
Yeah, it's only $225 to submit it or something like that.
So there you go.
Somebody will be sure to jump on that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. You're done.